I'm about to tell you why most fantasy character arcs fail, and it has nothing to do with weak magic systems or predictable plots. We'll talk about what character arcs are, what makes them actually work, and the 3 worst character arcs in fantasy and how you should avoid them. If you're new here, my name is Brianna and I post writing videos every week on character development, world building, narrative techniques, and other writing related things. I also make easy to use writing workbooks on my Etsy shop, so if you want an affordable way to outline and build your fantasy, romantasy, or sci-fi novel, or you want to write your best protagonist or antagonist yet, check out my workbooks in the link in the description below. Hit subscribe to become a better writer, and feel free to follow me on Threads and Instagram, all links are below. So, what is a character arc? It's the internal transformation or deliberate lack of transformation that a character undergoes throughout your story. It's not about what happens to your character, because that's the plot. It's about how your character changes because of what happens. The goal of a character arc is to create emotional resonance within your readers. A strong character arc helps readers care deeply about the character's journey because they can see themselves in that character's journey to grow, change, or hold on to their beliefs. As with most things in writing, there are many different ways that you can do a character's development arc, so I'll only talk about the 3 main types that you should know. The positive arc is your classic hero's journey. The character starts the story believing a lie about themselves or the world, faces challenges that test this belief, and ultimately grows by embracing a deeper truth. In The Lord of the Rings, Aragorn learns to accept his role as king. Or in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang learns that he can end the war without compromising his principles. A flat arc features a character who already knows some kind of significant truth and doesn't need to change. Instead, they change everyone around them. Gandalf doesn't need to learn about the corrupting power of the ring. He already knows. His role is to guide others toward that understanding. The negative arc is where things get dark and interesting. This is when your character either fails to grow when they need to, or grows in the wrong direction entirely. So there are 3 subtypes to this. The disillusionment arc shows a character discovering that their positive beliefs about the world are wrong, like a noble knight realizing that the kingdom they serve is corrupt. The fall arc takes a character who briefly glimpses the truth and ultimately rejects it, and ends up worse than they started. And then there's your corruption arc. This is your typical good to evil transformation. Think Anakin Skywalker's descent to becoming Darth Vader. Each type serves a different story purpose, but they all require the same fundamental understanding. Character arcs are about internal change, whether it's for the better or the worse. Now with that understanding, let's talk about what new writers typically do wrong. The first mistake is the personality transplant arc. This is when writers think that a character arc means turning their protagonist or some other major character into another completely different person. I see this a lot in new fantasy in particular. The shy, bookish character suddenly becomes a confident warrior with no psychological bridge between the 2 states. A character like Hermione Granger can't just suddenly become a character like Katniss Everdeen. They're 2 different personalities. If you want your character to have this type of dramatic personality change, there needs to be a connection to who she was at the start of the story to help form a bridge. That's why it's called a character arc. You go from one point to the other with a clear line of growth tethering them. A character arc is about awakening who they've always had the potential to be, not just changing who they are. Samwise Gamgee doesn't stop being loyal, gentle, and simple. His loyalty becomes heroic dedication, his gentleness becomes protective strength, and his simplicity becomes clarity of purpose. Before you write your character's ending, look at their beginning. What seeds of their future self already exist? A character's growth should feel inevitable in hindsight, not like you've switched actors halfway through the movie. Mistake number 2, the passenger princess arc. These are protagonists who are passive in their own character development. Things happen to them, but they never make meaningful active choices that drive their own growth. They're just along for the ride while other characters, fate, or external circumstances do the heavy lifting. This can look like the reluctant chosen one who spends the entire story being dragged from plot point to plot point without ever truly choosing their own path or making decisions that affect other characters or directly impact the plot. Think about your own story. If you removed your protagonist and replaced them with a slightly magical houseplant, would this story change at all? Frodo Baggins is chosen by circumstance, but every step of his journey involves active choice. He chooses to leave the Shire. He chooses to take the ring to Rivendell. He chooses to go to Mordor. Even when he's terrified, he's still choosing. Give your character agency in their own transformation. They should be the ones deciding to face their fears, challenge their beliefs, and grow. External pressure can create the circumstances, but internal choice creates the change. Mistake number 3 is misunderstanding the flat arc. This one is tricky. Not everyone needs to change. In fact, some characters exist to change others. This is called the flat arc, and it's incredibly powerful when done right. But most new writers either don't know it exists, or they completely butcher it. A flat arc character already possesses the truth the world needs. They don't grow themselves, but they inspire growth in others around them. Think Gandalf or Atticus Finch. They're teaching the lessons instead of learning them themselves. However, a flat arc doesn't mean a boring character who never does anything interesting. Actually, flat arc characters face the most intense challenges to their beliefs. They're tested constantly, but they hold firm to their principles, and because of their steadfastness, they transform the world around them. This could be a character who already knows that power corrupts, and spends the rest of the story helping others learn this truth while resisting corruption themselves. Or a character who knows that love conquers hate, and demonstrates this principle even when everyone else around them chooses violence. If your character isn't growing, make sure they're at least causing growth. They should be a catalyst for change in others, and their unwavering nature should be the thing that drives transformation in your story's world. Most of the time, character arcs fail because writers are trying to fix the wrong problem. You think your character isn't interesting enough, so you add more trauma. You think they're not heroic enough, so you give them bigger magic. You think they're not complex enough, so you give them contradictory personality traits. You can definitely do these things, and it can work if you do them right, but readers don't fall in love with characters just because they're complicated. They fall in love with characters who feel real, whether they're complicated, morally gray, or just a simple hobbit trying to survive. Real people don't just randomly become different people. They become more themselves. So let's do a simple test for your story's character arcs. At one end of the page, write down your character's core personality trait at the start of the story. They're brave, smart, cowardly, optimistic, whatever. Then at the other end of the page, write down how their core personality changes and who they become by the end of the story. So a hero, military strategist, traitor, pessimist, stuff like that. If they're positive traits, position them higher than your starting traits. If they're negative, then position them lower. If it's flat arc, keep them at the same level. Then in the space between the two, write down the major events that cause your character to grow or change. If it's positive growth, position it higher. If it's negative growth, position it lower. Think of it like creating a graph. Now draw a line from your starting point, connecting all of your events all the way through to the end point. How does the arc look? And is it what you thought it would look like? Is it a positive arc, negative, flat? And more importantly, does the growth make sense? Is there a logical connection between their core personality at the start and who they become at the end? If not, you might be writing a personality transplant instead of a character arc. Does your character make active choices within the events that change them? If not, they might be a passenger princess or prince. Does your character change or cause change in any way? If not, you might not have an arc at all. Character arcs work when they feel inevitable but not predictable. Your reader should be able to look back and think, yeah, of course this is how they ended up, while still being surprised by the journey. So now that you know what to look out for when building character arcs, it's up to you to figure out which arc will serve your story the best. Should your character grow, or should they inspire growth in others? Should they succeed in their growth, or should they fail catastrophically and spiral into a negative arc? I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments below. Thank you for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and you might want to watch this video next. Until the next chapter.